Okay, Liesl, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think it's really beneficial for people who are maybe considering taking on like a service like you've already been through to that are maybe sat where you were sitting, several months ago before you started to hear from someone who's actually been through the process to help them decide if it's something that's going to help them or not. So I do appreciate you taking the time. First thing I want to ask is before you joined the Financial Freedom Academy, where were you at in terms of your finances, I suppose your goals, your mindset around money, and what made you want to take the leap to actually join the program in the first place?
Well, I think where I was I was worried. I think that's
Yeah.
probably my number one feeling was I was in a changing time in my life where my finances were changing,
Mhm.
and I felt I was really worried about making the wrong decision, and putting my money in places that wasn't safe. And I really felt like I didn't have enough information to be able to make good decisions on my financial future. So I was looking for something that would give me not just a this is what you should do, but also the education of how to make decisions going forward, not just one decision or a few decisions right now, because obviously things are going to change in the future.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking as well, I think we were just kind of catching up about this before we started, like the recording for this, and you mentioned yourself that you kind of understand people who are starting. It's hard to know who to trust online, right? And I totally accept that as someone who runs runs the business as well. It's got a constant kind of thing to have to navigate essentially. So, as someone who was a skeptic in the beginning about just not just this, but just generally everything online, what would you say to anyone who's looking into maybe specifically this program or other things online now that you've been through what you've been through?
Like I say, I definitely would consider myself a skeptic. I did all the research that I could around your information and your
Hmm.
LinkedIn profiles and those kinds of things. Also chatted with the person that I was speaking to initially and asked lots of questions. I think I specifically did ask to actually speak to you at some point so that I could actually see that you were actually connected to the person that I was talking to.
Yeah.
But also, I think what I was most interested in is I actually attended one of your sessions that you did. And
Yeah.
I've got so much value out of just that. It was a session that I didn't pay for. I just looked in, I just attended that session, and I got so much information out of that that I felt that you were willing to give so much information at that point without any financial commitment at all. That I
Hmm.
did feel that you were somebody that I could trust.
No, I appreciate that. It's absolutely the intention to kind of give people as much as you can reasonably and also responsibly give them as well. A lot of people sign up to those like free events and free things expecting that it's going to give them every single answer they've ever needed and a complete plan and it's tailored to them. And quite frankly, it's as you can appreciate, right? It's just not possible. There's only so far we can go on those things before we get to a point where it's like, okay, well, this is an overview, like how you actually apply it to you. We can't say because we don't know you yet, right? So it's good that you're able to see that, kind of appreciate the value that we were giving and acknowledge that in order to make that work for you, you were going to need help. And like I said to you earlier, I don't take it lightly that you trusted in the program. I don't take it lightly that anyone trusts in the program. I think it's an obligation I take very, very seriously. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with you and being able to kind of show you what's possible when you get kind of tailored help and when you invest in yourself and you trust in the program, how much we kind of commit to making your goals happen. So it's been a real joy. So when you started, I kind of just been through your roadmap and our initial conversations. We get everyone to send us like their goals as well as info about their finances, so we can get a brief idea of what their finances look like. The things that mainly were in place for you were wasn't so much kind of like money management. It's not like you were out of control or anything like that, like some people are. It was more a case of just, yeah, you knew that things could potentially be more optimized on a month-to-month basis. So we worked through that anyway, as we do with everyone, just to make sure the foundations are set. But on top of that, it was mainly getting some kind of retirement plan in place. I remember specifically your comment was not necessarily a specific retirement age or an early retirement, but just knowing that I actually can retire
Yeah.
at some point was like the goal. And obviously you had a divorce settlement as well, and you wanted to make sure that that was getting invested in line with a good, solid, time-tested, proven strategy that you were comfortable to actually implement for achieving that retirement goal as well. So, given that those were your goals when you started, where are you now with those things after having completed, the bulk of the process?
Well, I could definitely say I'm not worried,
That's good.
which for in just to be able to say that one thing, I think if I, regardless of everything else, if I can just say that and tell myself of that time was this was a good thing to do, and I'm no longer worried.
Yeah.
That is an achievement of the goal. There's obviously specifics about my retirement and the investments that
Mhm.
I have, and now the plan that I have, and I've got a good view of my monthly expenses, which is great, and I'm keeping that up, and it's really good to know. Um, just it's peace of mind, and
Mm.
for me, that is entirely worth it.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I'm very happy, and I think that this. I did watch a lot of the testimonials before as well, and that was also part of the reason why I decided that this was definitely the right thing for me to do. That I could see a lot of people that I identified with, and have
Mm.
said, I went into it with not knowing what was going on, but came out of it feeling confident and not worried.
Yeah, that's good. And like you say, peace of mind is something that's just so hard to put a price on, but it's so invaluable just having kind of confidence about your not just your future, but like your financial future, because it just rules so much of our lives. It's kind of, it's just a necessary evil essentially. And so being on top of it and being in control of it is such a nice position to be in. And that's what you have now, right? So we've got a really solid money management system in place. You feel more in control of your month-to-month finances, especially with upcoming changes that are going on with your income and things like that. We've got a designated emergency fund in place, which is yielding you a nice solid 4% on a regular basis now. We've got a plan in place. Also, we had to kind of factor into your overall roadmap and time sequence that at some point you're going to be changing the property you were living in, and that was going to change, your mortgage and outgoings and things like that. And on top of that, obviously, the big one is we've got a really robust, detailed investment strategy and really just like a step-by-step roadmap now that has you set to be able to not only retire for sure, but actually secure a pretty comfortable retirement at 58 potentially. So like 9 years or thereabouts earlier than state retirement age, which is pretty awesome. So now having achieved those things or having a plan in place for unlocking all of that kind of future wealth potential, how do you feel now?
Well, the other thing is that I feel much more educated now, which I think was obviously I am South African,
Yeah.
and was only recently to the UK, and didn't really have an understanding of what was available to me. So
Mm.
I feel like I just have so much more understanding of what's available, what I can do, um, what is the safest place for my money, but also like what are my opportunities as well.
Yeah.
I think what a big trigger for me was having to sign a very long mortgage deal up until I was in my 70s, and that really frightened me. That gosh, am I really working up until I'm 80 years old? And I don't now. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big eye opener for a lot of people how all the pieces actually fit together, and getting in a plan in place that shows you that actually no, you can, put your money into this and this, and if you've got a long enough time horizon, actually you don't need to worry so much about the fact that you still might have an ongoing mortgage payment because it's all built into it. And then we can also show you kind of when that's going to drop off and what that's going to mean for future cash flow, and you just feel a lot more kind of like, like you can kind of breathe out and be like, it's actually fine. It's all good. And I've got a proper system that I can apply here. It's based on proven principles. And we, like you say, we educate everyone on those things, and you get lifetime access to the educational part as well, so that you can run back to that at any point if you need to remind yourself of those things, which I think is really helpful. But you're feeling overall, I'm getting kind of like, more clarity, more confidence.
Yes, yes, definitely more confidence, which I think
Beautiful.
I definitely didn't have any confidence with investing when I
Yeah.
started this. And also the added stuff that I got from the online videos. And there's also just there were things I didn't even think that I needed to know. Um,
Yeah.
there was things there about wills and lasting power of attorney, and so much information in there that I haven't even gotten through it all, and it was so extremely valuable to also make me think not only about the things that are my goals, but also other things I hadn't even considered,
Yeah.
which has been great in terms of my personal education, my personal growth as well.
Yeah. I think it's really important as well to capture those things to show people that it's not all about investing, because it's the one thing people kind of really obsess about. I'm not saying this was you at all, but it's one thing a lot of people generally really kind of overwhelm themselves with. And actually, there's so many other elements. And once we get certain things in place, we just plug the investing part in using, again, like kind of, you know, passive, relatively straightforward strategies actually, but just implemented in kind of intentionally in the right order in conjunction with those other elements, that you kind of start seeing, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is why that makes sense to do, and this is the order in which I need to make it happen, and so on. So yeah, I'm glad you're experiencing that as well. And of course, the main thing people want to know is, how did we do it? How did we get these results?
To be fair, I actually feel like I did it myself.
Yeah.
Which is great. So I don't feel like you told me, like I imagine if you invest in perhaps a different type of person to help you, but they'll just tell you what to do. Whereas
Yeah.
now I feel like I did it myself.
Yeah.
I put everything together. You gave me all the tools that I needed to look at. There's amazing tools, and one-on-one calls with you that just helped me then to roadmap and actually put all the pieces together myself, which I think
Yeah.
was definitely the goal for me, is that I didn't want somebody to tell me what to do. I wanted to be able to understand it enough to myself that I can actually do it.
Yeah.
So putting together all your advice, the wonderful videos that we've got, and the tools that we've used, I feel like I've actually achieved it myself, which is great.
I love that. That's music to my ears, because it's always for me been about empowering people to enable them to kind of like end their reliance on the industry or the professionals who, quite frankly, rely on people's lack of education and like their bamboozlement of them, so that they can charge them fees that are quite frankly unnecessary for work that they do, which quite frankly doesn't touch the sides for a lot of people. So we've always kind of been about providing people with the education so that they can get a holistic roadmap in place that takes into consideration all the elements they need to understand to get solid finances and a future, a secure future in place for themselves and their family, and to not have to ever pay me or any other kind of advisor or planner ever again. So I love that you've mentioned that, because that's the absolute intention, which is great. And I'm curious, is this now you've kind of completed the process? Obviously, you've seen the course, you've seen like the one-on-one road mapping process, all of this kind of stuff. Is this something you feel like you could have done, or like achieving these goals either as fast or at all on your own?
Absolutely not. Without absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't even think I could read. You can read a lot of things and you can watch a lot of things, but again, being a skeptic, what are you watching, or do you have is there an alternative agenda for this piece of media that I'm consuming? So yes, no, I definitely couldn't have done it on my own. Definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. It tends to be the consensus. I think many people think that they might be able to before they've even gone through it, but once they have gone through it and they see the kind of level of complexity we get to, they quickly realize, like, yeah, that was never going to happen. Like, realistically, I've got a job and a family and hobbies and things I actually want to do, that what I would have done, I never would have got around to actually doing that to that level. So it's good to hear it from yourself as well, and to know that it's now in place. So that's awesome. And how have you found the overall process? And the tools, like the educational resources and all of that good stuff.
I will say that initially I did find it quite overwhelming. I
Yeah.
was like, gosh, there really, because there is a lot to think about, and to
Mm.
try and holistically look at it, add all your bits and pieces and collect everything together. So it was daunting to start. But I've especially working through it with you, that you've definitely demystified the way you present things, very easy to understand. And then at no point ever felt like you were speaking about things that were too difficult for me to understand. But then working through the process, using all the tools and working through the processes, and we got to the end. And when I look back on it now, after we just chatted recently, I was like, gosh, look at that. We've actually, it's
Yeah.
not overwhelming at all. And what I'm doing now is not, is maintenance, and just the activities that we've set in our roadmap. Today I'm going to do this, so next week I need to think about that. Next month, this is something I need to think about. So I definitely don't feel overwhelmed now.
No, I'm so glad to hear that, because you're right. I think for anyone starting a process like this, obviously it's interesting. I think actually, if it didn't seem overwhelming in the beginning, there might be something wrong with the program that you've entered into, because it, this is something that's really important, and there are really important elements people shouldn't miss, and we didn't ever want to ignore that just to make people feel comfortable. Like, I think there's an element of uncomfortableness that is necessary to make them realize how important it is, so that they're more likely to actually do it, because it can seem, as a result of that, like this huge mountain to climb, but then we just implement a deliberate sequence of steps that we follow through with every single student, and before you know it, you are at the top of that mountain looking back like, oh, it's done. Like that happened. I've got a plan now. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And what would you say to anyone who is considering this, maybe on the fence and maybe hasn't taken the leap yet?
Well, I can only say from my point of view that I felt it was money absolutely well spent. And if I could speak to myself before I started, and I was going through the process of deciding whether or not to launch into this with you, me now tells that person it was the best investment you've made. And I really do feel like, again, just for peace of mind, just for peace of mind, it means the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, all the money and the results and the future projections and stuff, it's all great. It's really, really nice to have. But overall, it's the peace of mind, confidence in your future. That's what it's about for so many people. So I'm glad you agree. And lastly, be honest, is there anything that you would change about the process? Any way you feel like we could support you better at all?
I think initially I felt like it was going to be a course. So it was going to be like every Wednesday or we're going to, I must be there at 3 o'clock and I must, I must go through all the videos and make sure I get, I've just done a certification, which was like that. You had to attend at exactly the right amount of time and you had to be there. I think that was the impression I initially had, which I was willing to commit to.
Yeah.
But in my experience, it was much gentler than that.
Oh, good.
It was much more, I was like, oh, okay, I can just consume it I can consume the content all in one go if I have the time, or I can watch things back at my own speed. So that was a nice realization where I initially got in thinking, oh, this is going to be like another, I need to make sure that I'm here at certain times and I do certain things. But in reality, it wasn't actually like that. It was much gentler. And I was like, oh, I think I've got some extra time now. I think I'm going to do some of this.
Yeah, nice.
So that was a good thing.
Good. No, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we've always kind of tried to strike the balance between self-paced whilst also ensuring people get the results that they want in a good amount of time, because human nature sometimes is to sign up for these things and then stop and just hope that something might miraculously happen. So there's people who come in, join, do the work straight away, like the pre-work that they need to do before we can kind of start the first call, and that's great. And then we kind of always just we treat each individual student differently, and those people who need a little bit of a kick up the bum, we provide it. You weren't one of those people. You got stuck straight in, and that was really great. And like you say, we know the people who can kind of like self-pace at a good pace, and then we can just be there to support and do the calls and things like that. And those people who need a bit of a nudge, we never let anyone, we always catch those people who are falling behind, which is good. But yeah, look, I've got no more questions. I just again wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time. I think it's really, really valuable. Like I say, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I think this will be really, really helpful for people who are in similar circumstances to hear from someone, I think, other than me, about the process and how impactful it can be. So thank you again. Looking forward to continuing, working on your plan. You're still got time in the program. So yeah, I'm very much excited for that. And yeah, I'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, Joe.